So now that I've changed my glasses and added the volume, and well, forget about the video quality, it was just me talking to the microphone. Hopefully this one works pretty well. So let's talk about this sort of I don't want to say it's a pink elephant in the room, but today was the last day of the MLS regular season. I don't really care that much about who wins MLS. There is no relegation, there is no consequence to winning it other to say that you won. Playoffs, which were really designed when they first were introduced by UEFA in the concept of the home and away series, with the winner going total goal winner with goal away giving the preference in case of a tie. That was designed to have teams with equal record and having no additional benefits to enjoying a home field advantage. Now, when you're talking about the post-game or post-regular season tournament, most of the time, for example, in the Mexican League, the teams that have placed higher have the tie goal advantage. In other words, if there's two ties, let's say 1-1, 1-1, and it's 2-2 overall, the team that placed higher in the regular season gets to win. So it's kind of considered half a goal advantage. That's what MLS probably should have been doing, unless they decided to go back to the best of 5 points. Regardless, it's not what MLS has done, so it's pretty much random. And unlike the Mexican League, and like many other leagues that have half seasons, MLS plays this long, meaningless regular season, only to be followed up with a pretty meaningless playoff series or playoff structure, where the winners have nowhere to look for except CONCACAF Champions League, for which they field crappy rosters because they don't have to play good teams, such as Mexican teams, at the very beginning. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to talk about is the financial structure of MLS in its relation with the labor union. Now, if you look at any kind of a normal American pro league union, which actually has some power compared to Europe, where the unions really play a very minor part in some sort of on the very edge negotiation. The major point to having labor unions in American sports league, NFL, NHL, MLB, and so on and so forth, well, there is one more, is to negotiate the largest share of the pie for the players. So, for example, in the NFL, I think the share of the pie that goes to the players from total revenue is something like 55%. In other leagues, it's around 50%. And if you look at sort of the common sense European leagues, such as the Bundesliga in Germany, the ratio of payroll to total income, total revenue is roughly 50% to 55%. So it makes sense for a team to spend roughly half of their total revenues on their players. This is not how it works in MLS. In MLS, officially, the cap is about $4 million, which comprises roughly 25% of revenues coming to a team that we know of. And we don't know about all the revenues because MLS has so-called Soccer United Marketing, which has a sort of a marketing arm for both MLS and the United States men's and women's team. And in that regard, SUM has packaged the deals for both MLS and the national teams into one sort of a package, I said it twice, that is sold to both Fox and Bein gets the right from somebody else, Fox and ESPN. And the idea here is that, the U.S. ratings, national team ratings are higher, especially during World Cups and major tournaments, compared to regular season MLS. So it's a bundle, sort of like cable. You're getting the full cable bundle. Channels you don't watch, channels you watch. Well, you want to watch the package and you get the bundle with the MLS deal. But it's not everything either. It's a small portion. As I brought up the 25% rule, or 25% actual cap money compared to revenues. Why is that important? Well, the average player in MLS makes about $200,000 a year. Compared to the global soccer market, MLS is a low-paying league. That is completely contrary to all the other American leagues, to where the NHL or the Major League Baseball or the NBA, and certainly the NFL, which is really the only major American football-style league in the world, are the very top of the pyramid. In other words, American hockey and football and basketball teams paid the highest wages of any league in the globe, and so top players want to come and play in America. That's not the case with MLS, because if you look at their regular cap, it's like about, say, roughly $4 million, and there are about 20 players on the roster, so you have about $200,000 per player, which in England would be League One. In other words, there's a top level is the Premier League, second level is the Championship, third level is League One, and this is what pretty much people make on a third level, League One. And the same thing goes for like Bundesliga, which is called Bundesliga 3. So what happens in MLS is that players are facing, at least American players are facing a lot of competition. The result of it is that the players do not want the leagues to increase the cap. I mean, it sounds absurd on the surface, but that's how it is. In other words, if a player makes $200,000 a year of a $4 million salary cap that has to be spread over 20 players, and the cap goes up to, let's say, $8 million, because it's easy to count, you double it, and everybody. So now every player makes $400,000 a year. Well, because the market is completely fluid and there's just so many players across the globe, unlike in NFL and some extent baseball, these players, the American players making $200,000 a year, aren't going to have jobs. It's not that the $200,000 a year player are going to make twice, is that they're going to make nothing. They're simply not going to be on the roster. Maybe they're going to be the very edge of the roster as backups, making half of what they're making now. Because, if you look at number of minutes that backups get, it's not much. It's not worth, haggling over, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You want to come in for $100,000 and play, fine, come in and play. So this is the weird thing. The players don't want the cap to go on. They don't want to make more money because they know for more money, the owners will just get better players. For them, it's about job security. I mean, $200,000, and of course some players more, some make less, but $200,000, $300,000 is really, a pretty decent way to make a living in your 20s. And then you retire, hopefully you save up some money, maybe you won't, who knows. Now comes the interesting owners part. The owners don't want to have a high cap either. And that's obvious because if the league becomes competitive, so all teams within the league become competitive, people want to get better players. How do you get better players? Well, you bring in, higher quality free agents. You have to pay more money to get better players. That's pretty obvious to everybody. But the profits that each team generates, of course, then would go down. It can go down to nothing. We know that, top European teams that are owned by, mega bazillionaires lose money. They can't make money. They're paying $200 million in salaries and paying, $250 million on players like Neymar and, whoever Manchester City got this year. In other words, in the ultimate competitive market, when you try to build the best team on the field, will likely result in a loss in accounting books. In other words, you're going to lose money. On the negative side, you're going to be in the red. Now, so you see the value of MLS teams going up, up, and up. People are bringing in more and more, funds. They're investors. They're buying teams. There's expansion. Well, that expansion wouldn't be taking place if the teams did not make oodles and oodles of money. So MLS is obviously, as a group of investors, is interested in keeping their costs down, just like every other league. But this is the only league where the players go along with the deal. And that's what gives it kind of an uncompetitive edge. Nobody wants to be really good. Galaxy spends more money because Galaxy is kind of a billionaire team, and Phil Anschutz owns it, and they had the big local contract. But most teams, in the bulk of the league, do not want to spend a lot of money on players. They want to contain costs. They want to stay in the black. And they want to keep the same players, roughly. There's turnover, obviously, year to year. But they don't want to jump from, all of a sudden from having, a $5 million payroll to having an $8 million payroll. And that's why where MLS has this kind of idiotic rules, because it says, well, you can't have the bulk of the roster for $4 million, but you can bring in separate players. You can have, bring in David Beckham. I mean, if you want to bring Messi, well, you can pay him $100 million a year, but he's only going to count, $400,000 against the payroll. And so what happens is that the bulk of the team, given the rules, is League One quality, with some good star players, now and again. But if you look at the top scorers in the league, it's bringing a guy from Poland like Nemanja Nikolic, and he is the top scorer with 24 goals. And what is Poland rated? In the mid-20s. And that's what produces crappy soccer. There is no benefit to winning. There is no benefit to losing. An average American player isn't taught how to play properly. He can't learn how to play properly because he never plays with higher quality teammates. He never practices with higher quality teammates. There are exceptions. So the rule, if you look at, for example, at the Galaxy and the Arena, not only he kept bringing decent players like, Robbie Keane and Ashley Cole, and certainly Beckham came before him. Now you bring in some American players who have played overseas like Leggett and Robbie Rogers and that Baggio Husidic, and now all of a sudden you have teams that kind of knows how to work together because they figured out, how to play, proper soccer. But, a coach himself, and certainly it was the case with Arena, with the national team, he cannot show them how to play it properly. And so, as the result, if you take the best players out of MLS and pit them against, national or international competition, you're lucky to have Christian Pulisic. And Pulisic is lucky to score because he gets triple team on every play. He's lucky to score against Panama because their coach doesn't understand that he's the number one danger guy. Anyway. So that's the problem of MLS, and that's the reason MLS doesn't produce international quality players. It's not interested in producing these players because either they're going to leave for free, like Bill Hamid is leaving probably now, or you have to pay him more money. They don't want to pay him more money, and so they're kind of stuck in the middle. They pay Matt Beasler and Graham Zusi, they're $700,000 a year. But they don't want to pay $1 million, and they want to pay $1.5 million, which is in Europe is kind of peanuts. I mean, $1.5 million is what bottom of the Bundesliga club would pay, France, etc. That's the sole cause. I mean, the sole greatest cause of MLS being a crappy league, MLS not producing better players. There is no incentive to do so. And there is no incentive, there is no result.